crying, talking about how her ex killed himself. Well, when I heard that, I was like, I already had the guy like, man, this guy's soft, whatever, yo. What, he killed himself? It's whack. Whack, you know, I was being really insensitive, you know what I mean? I didn't say this to her, but it's how I felt, you know what I mean? I didn't say it to the girl, but it's how I felt. It's like, yo, this guy's whack, yo, this guy killed himself, like, that's unheard of to me at that point. Totally forgetting what I said when I was Welcome to another episode of Don't Quote Me on the 27th Letter Podcast. My name is Lanre Onigbinde Bay. Thank you for joining me. Listen, today we're talking about panic. When you panic, you get blinded easily. Not really thinking that you have options. When panic engulfs someone's mind and their heart starts pounding, their chest tightens up, the temperature turns up wherever they may be, impending doom around the corner, sweating a little. These are the things that happen when you panic, or when panic sets in. I'll give you two simple examples, okay? Two people, all right, in different cars, subway cars. One is in one subway car, it's crowded, it's rush hour, it's crowded, panic is setting in, again, heart pounding, hard to breathe, impending doom. This one person reaches for their phone, even though they're in the subway, just looking for get a hold of something. But panic already set in, and it's got a grip of them. In another subway car, exact same scenario, but instead of panicking, this person does what they've practiced, which is slowing things down, breathe in 5 seconds, breathe out 5 seconds. You do this a few times, you accept your surrounding, you get grounded in your surrounding so you can accept what's happening and you can endure it. Two different people, same scenario, but how they approach it was two different ways. Okay? I'll tell you a little story. As a young whippersnapper growing up in the streets, you know what I mean, with no real adult supervision around, you know, I get into a little trouble now and then, you know, going in cars, stolen cars, joyriding and whatnot. And I've been arrested at that point a couple of times for joyriding, but, you know, it's nothing. It was like a slap on the wrist. It's really nothing. So, in talking to my friends one day, I don't know, I remember mentioning this a couple of times. I'm like, listen, man, if these folks got me hemmed up, like arrested, in jail, looking at anything over 5 years, I said this with a straight face a couple of times, I'm gonna kill myself. There's no way I'm gonna do 5 years or whatever the case may be. Like, just even then, thinking about it, I'm already panicking before I even find myself in any position like that. Now, I'm gonna take the story back a little and talk about a friend of mine who is no longer here. I'm gonna tell you his story. My man, my homie Brian Gabran, rest in peace. Listen, this man, I remember him. Beautiful smile, high cheekbone, like yeah, the highest, most profound cheekbones I ever seen in my life. You know what I'm saying? I think it was in grade 9, I was in grade 10. We met in high school. Anyways, let me get to this story quickly. So we met in high school. Sucker for love. Like I remember him being a virgin. I was like, yo, listen, we gotta get you a girl so you can handle that. Even introduced him. I think I introduced him to the girl that took his virginity. You know what I mean? Fast forward a few years, like he ended up transferring to another school. I stayed in the same school. We lost contact, but he was always a good friend. From like, he was one of those friends. No matter how much time went by, I feel, because we never got the chance to reunite because he died. I feel like he was one of those guys, like we had that type of connection. It was just like genuine childhood friendship, you know what I mean? Innocent friendship. So, but I lost contact with him and so on and so forth. Graduated high school, and then I started working at this restaurant. And then I remember this girl that I worked with at the restaurant, just after high school, was talking about an ex-man, and the way she talked about him was like, I don't know, it's one of those relationships like, it's like they kind of still cared about each other, but for whatever reason, they're not together. So sometimes I would hear this, because my girlfriend also worked at the restaurant. So it's like the two girls would talk, and I'll be there hearing all this drama, you know what I mean? Whatever. And I used to be like, man, your man sounds like a, you know what I mean? He sounds soft, yo, you know? Then one day, there's another guy that I went to high school with. I used to see him at the grocery store. He worked at the grocery store right by my housing complex, Palmer Court. I think it was called Sunshine. I think it's called Sunshine Groceries now, but it used to be like Price Choppers back in the days. So this guy that I went to high school with worked there. Now back to this girl who was talking about an ex-man. So a few, I don't know, months later, she comes and I think she called my girl and crying, talking about how her ex killed himself. Well, when I heard that, I was like, I already had the guy like, man, this guy's soft, whatever, yo. What, he killed himself? It's whack. Whack, you know, I was being really insensitive, you know what I mean? I didn't say this to her, but it's how I felt, you know what I mean? I didn't say it to the girl, but it's how I felt. It's like, yo, this guy's whack, yo, this guy killed himself, like, that's unheard of to me at that point. Totally forgetting what I said when I was a lot younger. I'll bring that up because, so I go to the grocery store to buy some groceries one day, and I seen the guy I went to high school with, who works at the grocery store. He comes up to me and he's like, hey, what's going on? And we say hi, exchange pleasantries. He's like, yo, did you hear about Brian? Oh, yo, which Brian? Brian Gabran. Oh, yeah, that's my homie. What? He died. I'm like, what? Yeah, he committed suicide. I don't know what clicked in my head at that moment to make the connection, because it could have been anybody that committed suicide, you know what I mean? But I just made the connection where it's like, hold on, this girl told me about her man that committed suicide. This guy I went to high school was telling me about my homie who committed suicide. So I get on the horn, right? Like I dropped my groceries. I don't even think I finished talking to the guy because it hit me that hard. Dropped my groceries, went on the phone, and I'm like, yo, call Ray Tete. Yo, what's the name of your boyfriend again? Because she never really said his name. You know what I mean? Lo and behold, it was my friend. Turns out, Brian, I don't know what happened, but the story goes, The peace officer showed up at his house. He was wanted for an attempt murder. It wasn't nothing serious. I think they beat up somebody. I don't know, maybe the person was in the hospital, whatever the case may be, but the person didn't die, and they didn't like, it wasn't like an attempt murder where you use a weapon. From what I believe, from what I understood, it was just like him and a few people ran down on somebody and beat the crap out of him. That person ended up in the hospital. The peace officer showed up at my friend's house, and in a panic of what the future may hold, and knowing my friend, I know he's not crazy about getting locked up, because that's just not him. He was not a criminal like that. According to the police report, to the peace officer report, he pulled out a gun and shot himself. Because there was like a standoff at his house where they're like, hey, come outside, ooh, and he's like, no, I'm not coming out, and boom, gunshot went off, and he supposedly, allegedly killed himself in panic. Now, in the grand scheme of things, when I look back at how foolish that comment I made was, because it's like, bro, you never know what you're capable of until you have to go through it. So many young minds jump to conclusion, to the worst conclusion, to the worst scenario. Like, I think I read somewhere, the leading cause of death in the United Kingdom is suicide for men. Suicide amongst men. This is often what happens for some of us men. We panic. Put ourselves in positions, find ourselves in a situation and panic. And then you got the young people, the adolescents who are going through so many changes in their life. Identity crisis is out the window nowadays. So there's people who are committing suicide just because whatever they identify with, and they're not being accepted for whatever they're being identified with. Money, guy on Wall Street or Bay Street. Bay Street is the Wall Street in Toronto, in Canada. Loses money and wants to commit suicide. And when you look at, in the grand scheme of things, it ain't that serious. If we all learn to find that peace of mind within that moment, well, all you have to do is breathe. Breathe. Keep your feet moving. Don't ever, excuse me. Breathe. Keep your feet moving. Don't ever give up. You know what I mean? Don't ever give up. Why would you? When you put yourself out of the situation and you really get a bird's eye view of the situation, to commit suicide is the last thing you would even consider. But because we're so entrapped in the moment and the panic is setting in and our heart is beating faster, chest is getting tighter, the walls are closing in on you, and you jump off the cliff thinking that, yo, this is the only solution, which is not. My friend could have dealt with that issue like I dealt with my issue. I was out for 2 weeks after the incident, so it wasn't like I got arrested right away. So I mean, I have ample time to kill myself if I wanted to, because I was obviously looking at more than 5 years. But at that point, I was mature enough, responsible enough to realize it ain't that serious, even though I was in a serious situation. But it ain't serious enough for me to panic and go and jump off a cliff. Like, are you crazy? Nah, bro. And this is my message to you anywhere. Listen, now let me take it back to the scenarios I gave you about 2 people in the subway. The one person who succumbed to their panic attack, because they did that, they missed the subway stop, dropped their phone in panic and lost that. So which compounds the situation. You guys know what it is to lose your phone. But the other person was grounded enough that they even started reading in the midst of whatever was going on in that subway. At the end of the day, panicking, yes, it happens to the best of us. But how we endure it, how we come out from the storm. Always remember, within the storm, there's provisions for you, specifically for you. Within the storm of your life, there's provisions for you. So why panic? There's no need to panic at all. There are people who died from their injuries because they panicked, and other people who lived from their injuries because they didn't panic. You lose more blood when you panic. So take it from me when I say, as I sit there, remember, you're talking to a person that sat in front of the jury, got looked at and said, you're sentenced to life, and all I did was just smile. There was no, oh my God, overreacting in the courtroom, my God, oh, injustice, none of that. I saw it for what it is. I knew there's a process of appeal, and I have confidence in my appeal because I knew my heart. I knew the intentions of my heart. And the tears of Escobar, that's a whole different story. I'll tell you about the tears of Escobar one day. But you need not panic. And just remember, in the face of panic, there's strength in simplicity and resiliency. Don't panic. Breathe in 5 seconds. Breathe out 5 seconds. Do this a few times. And trust me, you will be fine. Take it from me. Dedicate this episode to Brian Gabran. I still remember everything about you. Every little thing. From the uniform we wore to school, to your black Converse with turquoise green, I think it was the Larry Johnsons you had. I remember, brother. I keep your name alive through this episode. Rest in peace, Brian Gabran. I miss you, and I'm sure your family misses you too. All right? Remember, everybody, take your time. Don't panic. Peace.